Hi, Tom from Allergens Released, channel where we make good food for those with multiple food allergies. Also, I'd like to welcome our newest sponsor, Interstellar Microgreens, and we'll get more to them later. Let's get started. So today we're going to make Bolognese and penne. Now, Bolognese is named after the town in Italy, and it's usually comprised of bits of meat, and it's what we've commonly referred to as meat sauce. So what we're going to need for that is we're going to need 2 cups here of, I have 2 cups of gluten-free pasta, 1.5 cups of beef stock, 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, 1 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes with juice included, 1 cup of diced celery, 1 cup of diced carrots, 1 cup of diced onion. I use red onion. You can use white if you'd like. I just prefer red onion because it adds an added flavor to what you're already making. 1/2 cup of red wine, 6 tablespoons of garlic, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of fresh basil, teaspoon each of thyme, rosemary, sage, parsley, oregano. And for later on, we're going to have these micro arugula provided by Interstellar Microgreens. We'll get to this for a second. These are basically micro versions of arugula in this particular case. These are used preferably for garnish, but they're packed full of flavor, and they are very nutritious, and basically giving yourself like a little micro salad on top of all your dishes. I like using them at the restaurant. We use their micro mix, which is a blend of all the different stuff, so you really get a little bit of a salad on them. But anyway, give them a try. So let's get started. First, we're going to heat up our pan. I also have some water sitting here that I'm going to start heating up for our penne. Next, we're going to throw some salt in that. Kind of get your penne some flavor. And put a little bit of canola oil in there to help it from sticking. I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of canola oil to start off the bolognese. So as we let that heat up, I'd love to know your thoughts on this in the comments below, or maybe you want me to make a recipe for you. Just let me know in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. Let's have a nice conversation about food, because food is good for everybody, and allergies should never take away from that. Now that this is heated up, we're going to start by putting in our vegetables. Our garlic. We're going to do a teaspoon. We're going to do 3 teaspoons of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of pepper, and let this all come together. Also, I forgot that you also need the meat. So, while this is sauteing up over here, I'm going to grab another pan, get that heated up. So what I have here is 2 pounds of ground beef and 1 pound of ground pork. You can use, like I said, back in Italy, they used whatever ground bits of pieces they wanted to use, but it was preferably probably veal, pork, or ground beef, or a mixture of all 3. I prefer like the ratio between a little bit more beef as opposed to a little less pork. So like a 75-25 or 70-30 in this particular case. So it's 2 pounds of ground beef and 1 pound of ground pork. I'm going to get my trusty potato masher. We're just going to add this all right in. Alright, throw away some of this. Love coffee. So what the potato masher is for is as this starts to cook, we're not going to cook this all the way through either. We're only going to cook this about medium rare to medium. What we want to do, we want to start breaking this up so that it doesn't have a whole bunch of clumping inside of the bolognese later on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and cook some of these vegetables, start to cook them through. Get them so they're heated and they're starting to cook throughout the whole thing and starting to soften a little bit. Start to release some of that juice into the pool here. So my back sink here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I have a strainer set up so that I can strain this ground beef once it gets done. So we'll get to that later. I figured I'd tell you the inspiration for this particular dish. One, bolognese is one of my favorite foods. I kind of affectionately refer to it as adult beefaroni. For those of you who enjoyed beefaroni when you were a kid. It was one of my favorites. So, I was recommended at a restaurant that someone thought it would be a good idea for me to try out and see if Caleb would like it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Caleb is the reason I do this. Caleb has celiac disease. He also has allergies to milk, eggs, soy, tree nuts, peanuts. Basically, out of all those 8 major allergies, he can technically only eat seafood and shellfish, and he's never had either one of those either. So someone wanted me to try this restaurant out. I'm not going to say the name because they're actually trying to do a good thing. But when I went there, I decided I was going to do everything gluten-free so that I could see what it would be like before I recommended it to Caleb, my nephew. So I got on there, like I said, one of my favorite foods is bolognese. Well, they had a gnocchi bolognese on this menu. And I ordered it, and I ordered it gluten-free. And I was not as impressed as I thought I should be. It just inspired me to come home and make my own version of it for something that he could have. Let's try these vegetables. I always try the carrots because the carrots are more dense than the celery and the onions. So if those are kind of cooked through enough, then everything else is ready to go. Oh yeah, we're getting it. Also, you can see this juice starting to come in a little bit. And now, it's starting to get a little bit of liquid in here, and the carrots are starting to cook through. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take our tomato paste, we're going to put that in, and incorporate that around a little bit. With that kind of combined with everything else in there. And now we're going to come back here. You see how it's starting to, you can see how it's starting to break up a little bit and getting those little pieces in. What will happen is as this gets into here later on and we start combining everything, it will allow for a more even cook on everything, and you won't have like big clumps of just ground beef or ground meat in your meal. So I'm going to go, if you can see that, we're not quite cooked all the way through. So we want to do some finishing cooking inside here later on. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drain it. Put it into here. Turn that off. So now that that's draining, I'm going to take my red wine and I'm going to let that get in here. I'm going to let that combine with everything in here. Let that alcohol cook off. Meanwhile, water's boiling over here. So we're going to go and start to cook our pasta. It's going to take about 7 or 8 minutes to cook. I have found with the gluten-free pasta, it doesn't cook exactly the way normal pasta cooks. It looks more like a whole wheat pasta. However, when it's done, it gets very sticky and clumpy if you don't rinse it. So once we get this cooked, we're immediately going to put it under cold water, rinse it off, and then we'll reheat it later on, just before we add it into the Bolognese. So. All right, so you see that tomato paste and that wine has started to come together over here. So now I'm going to reintroduce my ground beef, my ground meat. Going to stir that up some. Give our pasta a stir. Grab my, again, you want to kind of break up all that ground meat before you add in everything else. So, because once it gets in there, once you get the tomatoes and everything in there, it's going to be kind of hard to really see the clumps. So, kind of do that right now. See all those vegetables mixing in. Gives you like a whole one type of meal. You get your vegetables, you get your starch, you get your protein, all in one thing. So now that that's going, I'm going to add in my beef stock, my crushed tomatoes, my diced tomatoes and juice, and let that kind of come together. And this is where I'm going to add in all my herbs, my fresh basil, all my other herbs. Now, technically, you don't have to use fresh herbs for this. However, if you're going to use dried herbs, you're going to have to go reduce back a third, about 2 teaspoons of basil, a third teaspoon of the other 5, the sage, the rosemary, the thyme, the parsley, the oregano. So you're gonna have to dial that back a third, and you need to add that in when we were doing the vegetables, so you can start to release that flavor just a little bit more. So now I'm bringing all of that together. Going to turn my pot down to a simmer. I'm just going to let this come together. It's going to take about 2 hours to finish cooking. So meanwhile we have our penne working. Not quite there yet. That's going to take a couple more minutes. Get rid of this. So you're going to want to continually stir this on low heat for the next 2 hours, so that you don't, just like making a marinara sauce, any tomato product you have, you don't want to get a high heat on that. You don't want that bottom of the pan to burn, because what will happen is that burnt flavor will get through everything in your sauce, and all you'll taste is burnt tomatoes. It's not pleasant at all. Alright, we're getting there with this pasta. I'm going to take this pasta and drain it in my strainer. Turn that off. Gonna rinse this with some cold water. Gonna let that drain. So we're gonna let this cook for 2 hours. And we're gonna come back. We're gonna reheat the pasta, add it to the bolognese. We're gonna have some good food. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So this has been going for 2 hours now, and we're gonna take a taste to see if it's ready. Good. So, and I got some water boiling here so that I can reheat this pasta. So I'm just gonna take this pasta and I'm gonna put it in. And I'm just gonna do it this way instead. So we're gonna let that go for a minute to let that recook. I'm gonna get myself a plate. And we're gonna this is about a half cup of the pasta. There's a nice ladle. Come right in here. There's a good couple scoops of this right over the top. Look at that. Grab some of our greens, kind of go over the top with it. Take a look at that. It's a nice little hearty meal right there. So you've got some vegetables, you've got some pasta for some starch, you've got your ground meats. It's a full meal in one thing right there. And then with the micro arugula, you got a little salad on top. Let's get in here and try this. Get ourselves a fork. Oh, the pasta's cooked perfectly. Got a little bit of vegetables and tomatoes. So, something you can, this is something the whole family can enjoy. Oh yeah, that's good. So, hit me up in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this recipe or any other recipe, or if you want to have me do a recipe. And just remember, good food is good for everyone. Have a good day.